Hello everyone, my name's Brad and welcome to Mediocre Models. In this episode, I'm going to show how to paint Germans in the winter greatcoats using contrast paints. For the contrast paints, we'll be using my German uniform mixture, which is just a 2-to-1 mixture of Basilicanum Grey and Creed Camo, Apothecary White, Skeleton Horde, Snakebite Leather, Creed Camo, Gore Grunter Fur, Space Wolves Grey, Black Templar, Basilicanum Grey, and Guilliman Flesh for the contrast paints, Leadbelcher for any metallic areas, then I have Null Oil and Agrax Earthshade for shades at the end, and then Valhallan Blizzard for the texture paint, just to add the snow right at the end. The model is undercoated in Corax White, and yeah, so I have some completed ones here already, but we'll start on this one and I'll show you how I do it at least. So I'll get everything set up for the first paint and we'll start. So for the first paint that we're going to use, I'm going to use my German uniform mixture, which is again just a 2-to-1 mixture of Basilicanum Grey and Creed Camo. And basically this will just go onto all of just his greatcoat. When using this, just obviously always try and be careful not to get too much on any of the webbing or anything like that. It'll just save for just to clean up and everything like that. And this will just once again go over all of his uniform. You can put it over their helmets if you want. Other areas you can also put it on, like this one is any of the field caps, also any of the like the side caps. But for this particular one, I'll leave his helmet bare, and I'll paint that. We'll leave that white and we'll paint it in white just to give him sort of a white helmet. Yeah, so this will just go onto all of his uniform. If you can, try and make sure you have your strokes going all in one direction, and try to make sure there's not any major pooling. Try and make sure you don't also go over areas you've already previously done. So I'll go around and I'll finish the rest of his coat off, and then we'll come back to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to will be Apothecary White. And for this one I'll put it over his helmet, just to give it a slightly sort of off-white colour, instead of just making it plain white. Again, unless you've painted his helmet, you know, the same colour as his uniform, or a different colour if you want, you don't have to do that. And I'll also paint his little bedroll at the back here. Once again, this doesn't have to be white. You could use another colour. You could make it like a sort of like a camo pattern or something like that. Those will be the only two areas that I'll paint Apothecary White. If you have any models that have like these helmet covers that go over their helmets, any helmet covers like that, I would paint Apothecary White as well. But yeah, so that'll be it for the Apothecary White, so I'll let that dry and then we'll move on to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to now will be Skeleton Horde. And for this colour I will put it onto his bread bag. Other areas you may want to put this colour on to could be the spare ammo casings for the LMGs, any of the ammo carriers for the SMGs or assault rifles. But yeah, that'll just go straight onto his bread bag. And that'll be it for Skeleton Horde. The next colour I'll move on to will be Snakebite Leather, and with this colour I will paint in the bottom of his water canteen, as well as any wooden areas on any of their weapons. So for the rifle it'll obviously be the main body of the rifle. If you have any, LMGs or anything like that, you just paint the stock at the back. When putting this on, do be careful, especially on a model like this with the posies in. Try and make sure you don't get any on the uniform, but if you do, it's no big worry. You simply just have to go back with the Corax White, fix it up, and go over with whatever colour that it's spilled onto. So I'll go and I'll finish him off, and then we'll come back to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to now will be Creed Camo. And with this colour I will paint in any of the sort of the equipment on the webbing. So his gas mask container, as well as the top of his water canteen. If you have any with the stick grenades, I'll also use this for the head of the grenade, as well as Snakebite Leather would be for the handle of the grenade. And if you have any with these little egg grenades, if you didn't know what they were, that's what they are. I'll also paint that in using the Creed Camo as well. As well, if you have any with the MG34s, they have the 50 round clip-on magazines. I'll also paint that in the Creed Camo. So I'll go and I'll finish him, and then we'll come back to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to will be Gore Grunter Fur, and with this colour I'll paint in any of the leather straps for any of the weapons. So for this particular rifle it'll be obviously this strap down here. When painting this on, do be careful and make sure you don't get onto any of the uniform, but once again, it's no big problem. If you do, you can always go back and fix it up. That'll be for any of the leather straps on any of the weapons. The next colour I'll move on to will be Space Wolves Grey. And with this colour, I decided to use this colour to paint in any of the sort of the scarves that go around some of their heads and faces. I just decided to use this colour because I thought it'd just add a bit of extra colour to the model, make them look a bit more interesting. You could use really any colour you want to use. I just consider these to just, be bits of, rags or anything that they might find or pick up just to put on, just to give them that extra bit of warmth when they're fighting in the snow. But yeah, so all I use for this is just Space Wolves Grey. And that'll be for any of them that have this sort of scarf covering that goes around their faces. The next colour I'll move on to will be Black Templar, and for this colour I'll use it to paint in their webbing, so their ammo pouches at the front, as well as any of the straps at the front, the strap that's at the back, any of the straps that sort of go over their webbing or equipment. If you've painted, this white like I have, do try and be careful, but once again, no big problem if you overspill. Any of the straps for the water bottles, as well as for the container for the gas mask. and I'll also use Black Templar for their boots. So I'll go around and I'll finish all the Black Templar, and then I'll do a bit of cleanup on his hands and face, and then we'll come back for the final couple of colours. I also forgot to mention another area to also paint for using the Black Templar would also be any of the chin straps for any of the helmets. I would also paint that in using the Black Templar as well. Now that I've cleaned up his hands and his face using the Corax White, the next colour I'm going to move on to will be Basilicanum Grey. Now I'm going to use this colour to paint in his hands, and this is just to give the look that he's wearing gloves. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You could use just the Guilliman Flesh and just paint them in, you know, like just a flesh colour, sort of like this model. But I went through and I sort of did some, you know, like this, where they're just, you know, just their normal hands, and then I went through and did some where they, you know, are wearing gloves. But there are certain models, such as these two, where they are actually wearing, you know, like actual proper gloves. It's, you know, modelled on. But yeah, so that'll just be Basilicanum Grey. And it'll just simply go, you know, just straight onto his hands. And this will just give, well, what I think is a, you know, nice little cool effect. If you know, you could use other colours to, you know, give them different coloured gloves. You could also use, you know, just the base German uniform colour, just to, you know, give them those German uniform looking gloves. But I just went with the grey because I like how it stands out. With my officer, my second lieutenant, and his little assistant, as I was saying, I painted my second lieutenant and his little offsider. I painted their gloves using Black Templar, just to give them those black leather gloves, just to make them stand out just a little bit more from the regular rank and file. The next colour I'll move on to will be Guilliman Flesh, and this will be for his flesh. So on this particular model, it's just his face. But like I said before, if you have, you know, any with just their normal hands, you can just paint, you know, just their hands using the Guilliman Flesh. And with the Guilliman Flesh done, that'll be the last of the contrast paints. So the next thing we'll move on to will be Leadbelcher for the metallics. Moving on to the Leadbelcher, this will just be for any metal areas, any of the little clips for any of the straps on the weapons, as well as his belt buckle at the front, the O-ring on the back of his webbing, as well as any of the little clips for any of the, you know, equipment. And I'll also use this to paint in any of the metallic areas for any of the weapons. I like to paint my weapons this way. I know certain, you know, people might prefer the blackened metal look, but I like this. I like the way it stands out. So I'll just go around and I'll finish all the metal on his weapons, and I'll let that dry, and then we'll move on to the shades. Now that all the Leadbelcher is dry, I'll move on to Null Oil, and with this I will simply just put it all over the metallic areas that I painted in the Leadbelcher. When I put this on, I like to, you know, really load it on and just darken the metal down quite a bit. And this will just shade them down a bit, take the major the glare off it. Then I'll leave that to dry, and then once that's dry we'll come back to the final shade, and it'll basically almost be finished. Now the Null Oil is basically all dry. The next colour I'll move on to will be Agrax Earthshade, and with this we'll just put it over the entire model, just to give it that nice dirty war-torn look. I also put it over, you know, like all the white and everything, make it really dirty and stuff. You don't have to do that if you want. You can, you know, try and work around it and leave it, you know, leave it looking pristine, I suppose. But I just chuck it over everything. I just darken it all down and make it all dirty. Putting it on, do try and be careful not to let any major pooling happen. And also try and be careful and try not get over any of the major metallic areas if you've painted the weapons like I have. It'll just be an all over shade. So we'll let that dry, and then once that's dry we'll come back and add the final touches. Now that the Agrax Earthshade has now basically all fully dried, the only thing left to add to this guy is just some snow. So here I just have Valhallan Blizzard, and I've just got like a battered old brush. I just put a bit on, spread it around. Now really, if you're doing a winter force and you decide to use this, it's really up to you how little you want to put on. With my models I sort of made it that the snows were sort of just starting to fall and there was a little bit build up, but it's not a major snowstorm yet. I'm putting it on, you can sort of just put it anywhere. But one thing I really enjoyed doing was you just get just a little bit on the end of your brush. And then all you do is sort of just dab a little bit onto the shoulders. And just try and get a little bit, just built up. Nothing too major. Maybe a little bit onto the helmet as well. Just to make it look like, there's snowfall and there is actually, a little bit of snowfall built up onto them. But yeah, it's one thing I did to all of my winter Germans, just to give them a little something extra. So yeah, with that Valhallan Blizzard added, that's basically him finished. I really enjoyed painting my winter Germans. I sort of themed them in like, a Stalingrad sort of theme. But yeah, that's how I paint my winter Germans, and this is more of the finished products. But yeah, I really enjoyed painting these, and I always wanted to, do a Stalingrad themed German army, but I was just never brave enough to before. But using these contrast paints now, it's just given me the confidence to really do it, and I really like how they came out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that helps you if you're planning on doing something like this, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.